Dear friends, welcome to the Daily Bible Wisdom. Today we have a beautiful story from the book of Daniel, chapter 13, the story of Susanna. Susanna is described in the scripture as a beautiful and God-fearing woman. One day he went to bathe in her own garden, and she was noticed by two elders. The elders took the advantage of the situation of Susanna, so they went and threatened her. If she doesn't comply to their desires, they will accuse her in public in the crime of adultery. Susanna was terrified, yet she did not comply to the desires of the elders who are judges. In that situation, Prophet Daniel was inspired by God to save Susanna and to prove her innocence before the public. This is the story of Susanna that is given to us in Daniel chapter 13. When we look into the story, the elders and Susanna both faced the temptations. The elders faced the temptation for lust, whereas Susanna faced the temptation to save herself by giving her to their desires and be unfaithful to the love she had promised to her husband at marriage. But Susanna could courageously face the temptations, whereas the elders were yielded themselves to the temptation. What makes the difference? When we read the story very closely, we hear Daniel chapter 13:9. The verse says like this: They perverted their thinking. They would not allow their eyes to look to heaven. They perverted their thinking. They would not allow their eyes to look into heaven. On the contrary, we find the same chapter, verse 35 says that Susanna always looked towards the heaven, trusting God wholeheartedly. The difference is the elders turned their eyes from heaven, whereas Susanna at the time of temptation kept her eyes towards the heaven. By turning their eyes away from heaven, the elders did not allow the light from heaven to dawn into the darkness of their hearts, whereas Susanna, by turning her eyes into heaven, she had the courage to stand by the temptation and to stand for God by making a choice even to give her life as a ransom. Yes, dear friends, even when we look into our own marital lives, our own vowed lives, we all face the same kind of temptations. The courage to stand at the hour of temptation comes not from our strength, not from the others, but when we keep our eyes turned towards heaven. This is the secret that the story of Susanna teaches us today. At the hour of our temptation, that we need to keep our eyes turned to heaven. Not only that, Susanna also made a decision to be faithful to the love she had promised to God and her husband at the marriage. And we need also, as religious, to be faithful to the love that we had promised to God and to others through our profession. When we make that decision, then we have the courage and strength to stand at the hour of our temptations. May Lord help us on our Lenten journey.
Sometimes it causes me to tremble.